Perfect. All right. So I'm going to start first. So with me is one of the admins from Dispatch, and I'm very excited because they reached out to me about collaborating and reaching out to an actual driver that does works with Dispatch, and then someone on the other side, people that we kind of don't really see and hear from too much. Well, we everybody knows Lamar on the screen, but we get messages from him all the time. But it's great to be able to, from a driver's perspective, to ask questions to someone on the admin side to get some of these answers. So I know I'm going to miss a lot of questions that some people may have, but the ones that I have are ones that I've heard from other drivers as well as from myself. So just to start off, we're going to do an introduction. So with me today is Lamar, and I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, what your job title is, and how long you've been with Dispatch, if you don't mind.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on your channel. My name's Lamar. I'm a product marketer for driver supply here at Dispatch. And what I do is I'm in charge of all external communications for Dispatch when it comes to the drivers. So anything that you see go out about different initiatives that we have going on, or soliciting feedback, um, or any like driver expectations, anything like that, that all comes from me. Um, and I try to work with our driver engagement team to make sure that we are doing the things that the drivers want in our app. So I take you guys' feedback and bring it to our product team, to let them know like this is what the drivers want, and we see kind of what we can do from there. I'll go into the next one. So, I was recruited to Dispatch when I was in between jobs and kind of got hired to work on the driver engagement team, because I had a strong background in marketing, and I had experience as a driver in the gig economy as well. I had done it for a number of years, so I'm very familiar with you guys's what you deal with out there on the road. I've been with Dispatch for 4+ years, and I've been focused on everything driver related since I started. So from day one, was brought on as a driver engagement person, and that's what I've been focused on, even and as my roles have changed, still focusing on driver stuff. So going from operations side of driver relations, so recruiting new drivers, getting orders fulfilled, building driver programs, to now in marketing, engaging with drivers to tell their stories, advocating for product changes in the driver app, and providing feedback to internal teams. So that's pretty much what I do here at Dispatch.
Got it. That's really, I'm glad to hear that because I didn't know. Well, it's good that you were a former driver, so you know exactly what we go through, and then you kind of advocate. You're like the middleman, which
Yeah,
that's great to hear.
exactly.
Awesome.
Good.
Um, all right, so there's no particular order. I'm just kind of going down the list, but for those who may not know, including myself, what exactly is Dispatch? Like, is it a carrier company? Is it a bunch of investors? Like, what is it?
So we're Dispatch is a tech company that connects independent contractor drivers with businesses that need to get parts, packages, or other things out to a job site or a customer location. So we're a business-to-business app-based delivery solution, that allows customers to track their final mile deliveries. We've been in this space for 8 years and are still growing as the leader in the final mile courier space. And in my 4 years, it's grown a lot. We went from 20 plus markets when I started to 75 plus now across the country. So we're still growing, still adding more markets where there's demand, and yeah, still a lot of opportunity out there.
Got you. Um, so how does Dispatch get their customers? Like, how do you well, obviously, I know that can anybody use Dispatch? That's part of the question too. Like any civilian, or it's only business only, right?
No, anybody can use Dispatch. So
Okay.
if you go onto the website and you have a need to get something from point A to point B, you can place an order on the dispatch app. But how we get customers is we have a dedicated sales team that works, tirelessly to gain new business from current, former, and future customers. And then we also, our marketing team, so my colleagues on the customer side, they work a lot to gain customers through advertising, social media, different content, and organic traffic to our website. So we do a lot of that. And then, people can just kind of find us from word of mouth and place an order that way if they see what they like on our website.
Got you. So it's pretty much open to all.
Yep.
Um, so this is a question that I've always had and other people may have. We hear about OneRail all the time and a
Mhm.
lot of orders. There's other gig apps. We'll get to that later, but
Mhm.
uh, if you know, what is OneRail and do you guys work with them? You get orders from them? Like, how does that work?
So OneRail is a tech provider that connects businesses with different delivery solutions that are on their platform. We've been in discussions with OneRail on how we can work together in this space, but that's all they are right now is just discussions. So
Oh, okay. So you
yeah,
guys don't work directly with OneRail right now.
not at this moment.
Okay. So how does dispatch, the hiring process, how do they hire drivers? Like what qualifies you, what disqualifies you?
Yeah, so all of our drivers go through a similar application process to become dispatch drivers. Our drivers have to pass a background check, have a valid driver's license, a safe vehicle, and insurance. And so some of the flags that we look for on that background check that will disqualify are felonies in the past 10 years, DUIs in the past 5 years, and then any more than three moving violations in the past year. Those three particular things would disqualify a driver.
Got you. Okay. So I'm really glad you mentioned about the felonies because I've had people ask me that on my channel and I wasn't sure. I knew there was a year, uh, but 10 years I got. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So this is kind of an important question. Um, is there a max number of drivers um, for each market that's hired? Um, and basically, is there a certain amount of drivers for each market that dispatch hires? And then if there is it based on what type of vehicle they have? So they categorize between, a certain amount of cars, certain amount of pickup trucks, certain amount of box truck, cargo van, or is it just a certain amount of drivers and it doesn't matter what kind of car they have or vehicle they drive?
Yeah, so no, we don't have a set number of drivers that we hire per market or per vehicle type or overall. Um, our onboarding of drivers depends completely on the demand from our customers. So if we're seeing cancellations in the market because we don't have enough drivers, or if the drivers that we do have are not accepting the orders, then we'll start recruiting more drivers at that point.
Okay, so there is no set number.
No set
It's
number at all.
based strictly on the market. Got you. On the demand.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Um, so just curious, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but we're curious to know how does dispatch get paid? Like how does dispatch itself, the company, get
Mhm.
paid, including the employees? Like where does that money come from?
Yeah, we make money from each order that's placed on our platform. And so we have operating costs as well that factor into how much of that money is revenue for the business. So some of our operating costs are things such as paying the employees, paying for insurance costs, paying the drivers, paying vendors that we use to keep our tech running efficiently, and et cetera. Other factors from that as well. So all of those things factor into it. So yeah, that's how dispatch gets paid. And after those things are paid out, then what's left over after that is our revenue.
Got you. Okay. For each order. how do you determine how much a driver gets? What is it based on? Is it well? I'll let you just answer that.
Yeah, so how we determine how much each driver gets is we pay drivers by the mile, and that per mile rate is based on the size of the vehicle and the speed of service needed. Um, and so there are also add-ons, and I also should add on that that depends on the market as well. So a market like California might have a higher rate than a market like Albuquerque that's much smaller. So there are also add-on services customers can request, such as pipe racks or lift gates, that net drivers more money to accommodate those requests. So um, the gist of it is pay per mile, but there are other add-ons that increase that pay as well.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. Um,
Yeah.
so the um the money that's paid to drivers, does that come directly from the customer only, or is there the customer and another source of income, or where does that money come from?
That's a great question. So the money that's paid to the driver comes directly from dispatch, actually. Our customers are billed via invoice that can be paid at different times. So it could be paid after 30 days or whatever the case may be based on the contract terms. But dispatch has a commitment to pay our drivers weekly, regardless of when those customers pay for their delivery. So um, they could pay us off in the distance, but we still will pay you weekly, regardless of whether they have paid us or not.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense. I did not know that. I'm really glad we having this conversation, man. This is awesome.
good. I'm glad we can clear up anything for
Man,
you and drivers.
e- everything's starting to make sense when I get these answers.
Good.
What percentage of an order does dispatch keep on each order? I don't even know if you can answer that because I guess you kind of answered that already. But is there a set
Yes,
percentage or not really?
it varies. It's really based on the distance, the speed of service, the vehicle type, and the other add-ons. So yeah, um, yeah, it's definitely just varies on order to order. It's not really a set number.
Got you.
Yeah.
Um, so one thing I like, well, I'll get to that later, but I like
Okay.
this. The bonuses. The
Yeah.
bonuses are great. I like them. But I would have to say that it's pretty difficult to get these bonuses. Um, is dispatch or will dispatch ever consider lowering the amount of orders you have to do to get to qualify for the bonuses?
So right now we don't have any plans to do that. Instead, what we are trying to do is just funnel more orders to cargo van drivers to make it easier to hit those bonuses on a regular basis. Um, and so we've already begun that process. Just last week, 74% of our orders were delivered by cargo van drivers. So
Wow,
we are
74%.
really, yeah. So we're making a concerted effort to get more orders to you cargo van drivers. Obviously, it's a bonus for cargo van drivers, so we want to try to make it easier for you guys to hit that. So that's a part of that effort.
Got you. Okay, cool. Glad to hear that.
Mhm.
And I'm just keep going. I'm not gonna elaborate too much, because
No,
we
you're good.
gotta, all right. Uh, so the cancellation policy, um, sometimes, and like I said, this is some of these questions come from other drivers too. I'm just kind of asking
Yeah,
on their behalf.
yeah.
But some people have had issues with the cancellation policy. My understanding is you get, I think it's like 750 if you go to the delivery or the pickup and it gets canceled while you're there. All I know is the cancellation policy. When do you get half? Basically, I think because I think that you can get half,
Yes.
and I think that's what the complaint was that there was times where
Mm,
they're supposed to get half, but they only got the 750.
okay. So so we have a straightforward cancellation policy. So if you've been assigned for more than 5 minutes and the order is canceled, that's when you'll get that 750 flat fee or flat rate. If it's canceled after you've arrived at the pickup location, then you'll make half of the base fare. And that base fare does not include any of the add-ons or the bonus pay that's added, that's put on top of that order. So it's just whatever, however much the order would have been prior to those add-ons or bonus, you'll get half of that. And then any cancellation after you picked up, the driver will get the full rate for that.
Full rate. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that, yeah, I think what I was trying to think of was that, because I actually had an incident like that where I
Mhm.
showed up at the pickup. It was canceled while I was there. And my understanding, I was supposed to get half, but I only got 750. So I don't know. That's kind of where that
Okay.
confusion came from.
So did it get canceled while you were there, or were you on the did it get canceled on the way and you saw it when you got there?
Yeah, no, it was like I was there to pick up, and then I want to say it was like Sherman Williams or something like that, and
Okay.
they said they're sending it out with their driver, and
Mm.
it was just kind of like a
That,
wasted trip.
yeah, and that's a common thing with Sherwin Williams. They use multiple different couriers to do their orders. So they give us a certain amount of time. Um, they give us a certain amount of time to fulfill their order, and then they will kind of figure it out from there if it's not
Oh, that makes sense.
accepted. So, um, so yeah, that's a something that happens with Sherwin, but we will compensate you for that time if that does happen to you.
Gotcha. All right, moving along. How does the waiting list work? How long will applicants have to wait, or is there an indefinite time? Or
Yeah, so the wait list is kind of our mechanism for when we don't have a pressing need for new drivers in a market. So we try our best to not oversaturate our markets, and this is a way for us to protect against that. The wait lists are indefinite. They're for some markets we might not ever need to onboard more drivers. It all just depends on Um, the demand in that market, and then how well the current driver base is doing.
gotcha. All right. I think you kind of answered this already. A lot of people complain about they think or feel that the market is oversaturated. So I guess from your perspective, because you
Mhm,
can see the market better than us, is it
mhm.
oversaturated or is it just not enough work for the drivers that you have?
And that's a fair question. Yeah, I'll just be transparent about it. Some of our markets can at times be oversaturated,
Okay.
definitely, and that's why we have the wait list turned on. But
Okay.
we do have our sales team and marketing team working hard to gain more business in every market, so we can keep the majority of the drivers busy in those markets. But I do want to say that not every driver is going to eat the same on our app. Like,
Right.
everybody's not going to have the same amount of orders. um, it's just not possible. So
Right.
but we do want to make sure the best, most reliable drivers have enough work to hit their goals. So that's what we work towards. Those drivers that are some of our top drivers, most reliable, deliver on time. We want you all, because I include you in that. I've seen your numbers. You are included in that. We want you to hit your goals. So we do try to funnel those orders to you.
Okay. Cool. Appreciate that. Um, so you kind of answered this too, but dispatch, do you guys, you can't guarantee work, right? You can't guarantee work or guarantee deliveries to customers, right?
Right. So just like you said, dispatch doesn't guarantee any work to drivers. What we can do is make the platform efficient and effective, at giving our best performing drivers the most work possible. We don't guarantee things to customers either when we're onboarding them, but when a customer pays money to have something delivered on the dispatch app, there's an expectation that their order will be delivered on time and with professionalism. So that's why we stress to drivers delivering on time. is so important, and why we discourage drivers from asking to be released from orders. Orders that are released have a higher risk of being canceled and turning off a customer, which then leads to less orders for drivers. So it's all a trickle down effect, and we want every customer to be happy, so we can keep you guys happy. So that it all works together.
Got you. Yep, makes perfect sense. So the bonus pay, we notice sometimes an order will come out and nobody it's just sitting, and then all of a sudden there's a
Yeah,
bonus pay added.
yeah.
I'm curious to know, where does that money come from? Is that the customer adding money, or is that dispatch just adding a couple extra dollars to get somebody to take it?
Yeah, so that bonus pay comes directly from the dispatch wallet. Um, so dispatch chooses to pay that out of their pocket rather than risk, losing a happy customer. But not all orders can be bonused. There are factors such as location, time of day, available drivers on the platform that can affect whether or not a job is bonus. So um, we do have that capability. It does come out of our pocket, but not all orders can be bonused.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess on the same topic, do orders, let's say you have an order that's been sitting and nobody takes it, even with the bonus, does it get canceled, or how does that work?
Yeah, yes, it does get canceled. And like the more cancellations we have, the more likely that customer will do business elsewhere. So we just try to avoid that, as best as we can.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so this is one. This comes from a lot of the other drivers I've heard talk about this. Um,
Okay.
if drivers they frustrated with the pay in their area, they feel they should be getting paid more money. If they say, you know what, we're not doing no loads until dispatch raise the rates of or the price. Um, is that will dispatch increase the pay, or is like how would that? Not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying some people feel that they could push dispatch into a corner and force you guys to pay more. Is that how it works? Is that even feasible, or that's not how it works?
Uh, Not necessarily how it works. I mean, for an order, Um, if every driver refuses an order, the order would just get canceled. The pay is the pay in most cases. Like I said, we can bonus some orders, but for the most part, what that payout is what the payout's going to be, and we don't do much negotiations outside of that.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. That's something I've kind of been thinking, because I do have to look at it from your perspective. Like you have to make money too, so you can only charge a customer so much. So like
Yeah.
I don't see that working. But
Well, and I
appreciate you
appreciate
clarifying
you
that.
saying that.
Yeah,
That's part of why I wanted to do this interview with you in particular, because I felt like from watching your videos, you were very reasonable in how you looked at the business of everything. So I appreciate you
exactly.
saying
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. I completely understand both sides. Um, all right, almost done.
that. Yeah.
Um,
No.
so I have this is a personal experience, but I'm sure other people have seen it, but I've seen times where there's two very similar orders, like same weight, same distance, pretty much the same load, but at one day it'll be a certain price. Let's say it pays, the payout is $40, but then another day it's like $60 or something. I've seen that before. Is that from does a customer add extra money or a tip, or like how does that happen?
Yeah, so that can happen for a number of different reasons. It could be that the customer placed the order early in the morning or on the weekends, and that's when the payouts are a
Oh,
little higher for the drivers,
gotcha.
rather than the more busy hours. It could have to do with the speed of service needed. They might have one day they might have needed it as soon as possible rather than just by the end
Oh,
of the business day. The vehicle needed, that would affect the pay. any add-ons or services attached. So yeah, it's pretty much on a case-by-case basis, why two order or why the same order might have different pay on different days. Um, so yeah, we will just have to look at that to give the exact reason, but those are a number of the factors that could be in play there.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Man, I'm so glad you answered that because a lot of these questions they've like been burning in the back of my head. I'm like, man, I feel relieved now.
Yeah,
It's a huge relief,
I'm glad we could take that weight off of your shoulders.
man. But it makes perfect sense. That's makes perfect sense. All
Yeah,
right. So this is something I'm actually interested in there because I know some people drive part time, some people just do it as a side gig on the weekend, but some people like this 24. I'm available 7 days a week. So
yep.
people like that, do you think or do you know if dispatch would ever consider having like a dedicated route for like full-time committed drivers, and so that way they can or like maybe they create a list of drivers interested in that.
Mhm.
Is that something that they would even consider, or that's not possible when you're an independent contractor?
So we're actually in the process of trying to make something like that happen. The dedicated routes. So order bundling is kind of the first step in that process. And so right now, a bundle could be up to 10 orders in a bundle. And so essentially with that, you would have a pretty decent route for a lot of the day with, 10 different, it could be 10 different customers or the same customer with, 10 different stops or whatever the case is. And so for additional context there, creating these routes has the potential for needing fewer drivers because one driver will be able to take on a full route where previously we might have needed multiple drivers. So that might upset some drivers, but we ultimately just want our best drivers to take as many orders as possible and make as much money as they can. So I've been saying best drivers a lot, but what I mean by that is, drivers that are punctual, drivers that don't cancel or are regularly that don't cancel or regularly ask to be assigned or unassigned, I mean, and then drivers that have a high customer satisfaction rating, and don't have any issues with the customers. Those are the things that we're looking for. And I want to put extra emphasis on being punctual. That's the number one thing that we look for. We really need our deliveries to be delivered on time. And so we really want to reward the drivers that are able to do that on a consistent basis. We know it's difficult to have a 100% on time drop off percentage. Different factors happen in different markets, but our top drivers are close as heck to that 100%. So that's what we are looking for.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. Um, does dispatch the company pay attention to their competitors? There's a lot of gig apps out there. Majority
Yep.
of us, have all of them. So
Yep.
do they pay attention to other gig apps, and what are you looking at or looking for if you do?
Yeah, yeah, we are definitely aware that a lot of our drivers use multiple of the apps, and we get insight from some drivers about what our competitors are doing from time to time. We are very aware of what our competitors are doing, but at the end of the day, we're running our own race. We are doing what we think is in the best interest of our company, our drivers, and customers to continue to grow. So yes, we are aware of what they're doing, but it doesn't necessarily affect how we run our business.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, last four questions.
yeah,
Um, will dispatch ever increase the pay for deadhead miles or consider paying drivers for deadhead miles back from a long haul? That's kind of a question I had, but I know other
yeah.
people asked about it too. But
Yeah, this is a very, very common question that we get. And it is something that we're working on a way to do this so drivers don't have to be concerned about the deadhead miles when they're reviewing an order. So that's something you might actually see this year.
Oh, okay.
So stay tuned to that. We are actively working on something for that.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I put a star next to that one.
I know a lot of drivers are gonna want to hear that. So.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, that's some of the things that like I would love to take it, but I'm just thinking like, man, I drove, 120 miles out. I gotta drive 120 miles back. So
Yeah, yeah, and I'll say this: it's not gonna be perfect, but we're gonna do our best to accommodate as best as our app will allow and
right,
our business will allow.
got you.
So I'll say it like that.
Okay, that works for me.
Yeah.
Um, so can drivers recommend companies to work with? If so, how do you do that, and what's the advantage of helping dispatch gain more customers for their platform?
Yeah, so if a driver knows or wants to recommend a particular company for our sales team to reach out to, they can let us know by emailing us at drivercare@dispatch.com. There aren't currently any advantages to recommending a customer, but it's something we can look at if we begin to get more leads from drivers that turn to customers. If we start to see like there's a particular driver that's gotten us, two, three, four, five customers that are constantly placing orders, then I think that's something that we can look into for, what would be a benefit of you bringing on more business for us. We haven't
Okay.
seen it. You haven't seen it yet. Um,
So
and
I kind of want. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we haven't. We are looking into ways to make it easier for drivers to advertise for us as well. So that's another thing that we're working on.
Okay, got you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna kind of piggyback on that. Like from my perspective, a
Mhm.
lot of the drivers are not just independent contractors; like they have their own business. But a lot of them, I think, a lot of people look at it as, why would I help, dispatch get work when I'm trying to get work myself? I
Yeah.
rather get that company for me. That's why I say, would there be a benefit to it? Like if I can get guaranteed or more guaranteed work by
Mhm.
helping dispatch get a customer, that's something that would help my business too. But
And that's fair. That's definitely a fair point. It's just something that we haven't seen
yeah,
as far as drivers turning a lead that they know into a customer.
mhm.
But if it's something that does start to happen, then it will be a conversation that we can have in the
Okay,
future.
cool. All right, man, we here made it to the end. I don't have any more questions for myself. I'm sure there's some people that do, but as you said, well, I don't know if you said this or not, but I know that when you have a question, you can always email. I believe is it the driver care email or is it a
Yep.
different one?
We're at dispatcher.com.
So yeah, any questions that I missed, you can email it to driver care. Other than that, in closing, is there anything you would like to share to drivers about the platform or any future plans or recommendations? Just your final thoughts.
Yeah, so we're actively dispatch is actively looking for feedback from drivers often. Whether it's from in our webinar series that we started this year, our surveys, or just drivers reaching out to our drivercare@dispatch.com email. We want drivers' voices to help shape where we go with our platform. So will every suggestion be put into action? No, uh, we can't do that, but we respect all the feedback and suggestions that we do get, and our driver app team looks at all the suggestions to see what we can and can't do. So I just want the drivers to know that your suggestions and feedback is not falling on deaf ears. I see it all. I pass it on to whoever might need to be passed to, and we will take action. We'll take immediate action if we need to. Otherwise, kind of log it as something that we might be able to do in the future if it's feasible. And so the last thing I want to say is I'm here at Dispatch to advocate for the drivers. As I said earlier, I was a gig driver. So I am very familiar with the stuff that you guys are dealing with out there. And I want you to have the best experience possible. So I'm doing everything within my power to make the driver experience the best of any app out there. I want Dispatch to be your number one app. So that's my number one goal, along with some of my colleagues, some of which have also been dispatch drivers themselves or have used other gig apps. So, I appreciate your time and, your willingness to allow dispatch to kind of say their piece and clear up any misconceptions or anything like that. So I appreciate it.
Cool. Hey, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your time and getting those answers. And man, that's it, man. We're gonna conclude this part of me, Big CJ, asking dispatch questions. Hopefully I answered a lot of your questions. I'm excited though. I learned a lot and I really appreciate that information. And man, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.